Bookish Babes. I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Peyton.
And today we are reviewing Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, the second book in the Letters and Enchantments duology. But that's not as important as some very special and
Oh, no.
exciting news that Peyton has for us.
the bubble too just adds to it.
I can't do it.
Yes, guys. No, we need to keep that because Zencaster, if you ever see this episode, you need to know, for all of our audio listeners, there's this bubble that keeps on showing up on Aubrey's screen. When she gets
Zencaster, I'm
overexcited.
coming for you. I don't know how to turn it off. Every time I get excited, it's like emoji. But Peyton, tell us your special news.
Okay, everyone, I got engaged. Oh, if I don't show it right, I'm gonna get in trouble.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go. Now it's coming through. Look at that beautiful rock on her hand.
Seriously, like engagement rings and like weddings in general are amazing because no matter how much of an Adam Sandler fit I have on, it like spices it up.
It spices up. You have a very expensive rock on your hand at all times.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, and I think that this book is perfect because
Yes.
this is such a romantic. The wedding band is mentioned a lot in this book. It's a huge,
Yes.
it's a huge symbol and lots of imagery. And so, anyways, yes, my fiance. That's weird to say. Robert proposed this past weekend in Newport, Rhode Island. We did a lot of Swiftie things, so the cardigan came out for the EPs. Also, just once again, it feels very Ruthless Vowy. But yeah, it was magical, and look at my Instagram if you want to see photos.
Yeah, it was so beautiful. If you missed it, you gotta look at those pictures. I'm so happy for Peyton. I was pacing the floor that day because I knew it was coming, and I was like, when is she gonna say something? When is it gonna happen? I was so excited for her.
It was perfect.
We love Robert. And
yes,
this is a perfect episode for it because it's such a
it is. I'm happy it's not like last week's when we reviewed Powerless or like a really depressing book. This is a very just like it's a magical, enchanting sort of love story. And I am so happy to talk about it this week. I'm happy it lined up this way because that would be very depressing. Like I'm engaged and our main character dies.
The book's horrible.
And the book sucks. So have a good marriage, Peyton. Anyways, I'm so upset because speaking of engagements, we started fully recording this podcast right after Aubrey got married. So that stinks. We'll have to do we should have done for your 1 year like a TBT, like a throwback because who knows, we may be able to do some bookish wedding themed things because Aubrey had a lot of bookish things in her wedding.
Like
wouldn't
all
that
the
be fun?
Centerpieces were books and stuff like that. We also had the flu. Like the 1 year in December, Peyton and I both had the flu. I still haven't celebrated it. Like Jacob and I have not done any of our stuff. Like you're supposed to eat your cake like again like a year later. It's still in the freezer. We haven't ate the cake. We haven't done anything because I was down bad, and like now we are like, okay, we have to plan something good now that we missed it.
Yeah, you have to do it. We'll be doing a vlog here in the next week, so that's when have, because I love seeing people eat their wedding cake a year after because it's usually disgusting.
Yeah.
And people are always like, this is a bad idea, but you have to do it. And then
I didn't like it originally. Like our wedding cake, I thought it was gross. We had some leftovers that like wasn't the frozen bit, and I wouldn't eat it. I was like, this shit's disgusting.
You're like, it was for the pics. It was pretty.
Yeah, it was for the pictures. I let Jacob pick like the flavoring and stuff because I'm not a huge cake person. I'm a very
me either
person. And so I was like, yeah, you can pick whatever you want. Like as long as it's chocolate, I'll eat a bite, and it's gross.
So with that being said, join us with this cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets.
All right.
Let's do it. All right, we're here in our non-spoiler section. This is our NS section. If you don't know, how we run the podcast is we will do a non-spoiler section and then we'll jump into all of the hot tea. I like this section for someone who maybe read Divine Rivals and you're like, I didn't love that book. I don't even know if this is worth my time. This is where you listen, and we will let you know when we enter the spoiler section, just so nothing is spoiled. But, however, with that being said, if you have not read Divine Rivals, we will be saying Divine Rival spoilers in this section. I will link the video. We did a podcast already on Divine Rivals, so watch that, read the book, read the second book, and then meet us here. And this is exciting because it's rare that we review duologies, and I do not read duologies a lot, so this was very interesting to know. When I'm done this book, the series is over. I feel like Aubrey and I get caught in these literally 12 book long series and they just never end. So it was
and
interesting.
It's always another cliffhanger.
Yes.
I think,
and so it was interesting to kind of see this unfold.
Yeah. I think this is only the second series where we have. Did we? Yeah, we did do Queen of Nothing. Okay, so besides the Coral Prince, I think this is the only series that we have reviewed like the entire thing that isn't just like a standalone. Like everything else is still up in the air.
Correct. Yeah, because Iron Flame's still going strong. We haven't even hit Crescent City yet.
Yeah.
Oh no. But we the Cruel Prince is up. But with that being said, Aubrey, give us a little once over, kind of catch us up where we are, at least in the beginning of this book, and what may unfold.
Yes. So, as the conclusion to the intensely romantic and beautifully written story that started in Divine Rivals, okay, this book begins 2 weeks after Iris returns home, bruised and heartbroken from the front, but the war is far from over. Roman is missing. The city of Oath continues to dwell in a state of disbelief and ignorance. She's back at her flat with her brother Forrest, who we know rescued her from the front, leaving Roman behind. When Iris and Addie are given another chance to report on Darcy's movements, they both take the opportunity and head westward once more, despite the danger, knowing it's only a matter of time before the conflict reaches the city that's unprepared and fracturing beneath the Chancellor's reign. Oh my gosh, you put a lot of fucking adjectives in that Phaeton.
Goodreads did. Thank you, though. Usually Goodreads is too sophisticated to read out loud. Like, it just does not sound great. But I read this and I was like, oh, this is pretty simple, but still, you know.
No, it was. It was a lot more simple, but, like, usually I, like, fuck around with the summaries and write, like, whatever's on my head. And I'm like, this feels so sophisticated. I was like...
the way my mind works with book summaries, and when someone's like, what's the book about? In my head, I'm like, bam, 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 bam. And then out loud, I'm like, it's about dragons. Or this, I'm like, they send each other letters through a wardrobe. Is that like And then my boyfriend's like Narnia. I'm like, kinda. Like, no. Anyways, guys, this book basically summarizes the last book in the first half. And then the second half is the war, right? So in the first book in Divine Rivals, that was the rivals to lovers. Oh my god, that is fucking gorgeous. Oh my gosh. Stop it. That's beautiful.
And then Divine Rivals is the same, but it's black and it says Dear Iris.
Ugh! I need to buy it. I need them. I read them on my Kindle, which was fire, by the way. But anyways, the second half of this book is the war. In the first book, that's like their love story. And then we get a little bit of the war action. Like, that's where our cliffhanger ends when they get separated. If you watched the Divine Rivals we did that podcast episode, I just didn't jive with the dual POV. I didn't jive with the story set up. It felt very juvenile. And then I also remembered they're like 18. So
yes. Okay. No, the fact about them being 18, we keep meeting like new characters, or like we meet Addie's parents in this book, and everyone lives at home with their parents, and I'm like, isn't this strange? And then I was like, oh no, because they're all fucking 18. I
They're
was
all
like,
young.
shouldn't some of these people be embarrassed that they still live at home? I'm like, no, because they're 18 and acting like full grown adults.
Yeah, and like Addie's character, while she's like that innocent, supportive young best friend. I think as Iris
Yeah.
they have like full-time jobs. So like to us, we just categorize them as like 25-year-olds right away, and I think that was like my B.
Mhm.
But regardless, the thing you need to know is the first part of this book is a plot summary. Okay? I'm not fucking wrong. But
There's stuff happening with Roman.
yeah, honestly, the most important part of this whole book is just Roman's POV.
Yeah.
I do have to say some stuff. I'm actually gonna be more positive for this book review. Similar to how Aubrey felt with Powerless, I liked Powerless. Thought it was a good book. It wasn't a great book. It was a good book. I feel similar, the same exact way about this book. It was a good book. I liked it more than Divine Rivals. I needed and wanted and appreciated the dual POV because there was a reason for it.
Yes.
Because they were on literally different realms of the earth. So that is why I will stand by this dual POV. This book needs a dual POV, but it wasn't so in your face. Like halfway through the chapter, you would switch. It wasn't so segmented. I don't like when dual POV is like, well, this is her chapter and her chapter only and his chapter, and then it drags out and the book drags out. So Rebecca, love it, girl. Good job.
I think for me, this is a good book, but it's not super entertaining. Whereas I think Powerless for me was an entertaining book that wasn't good. Okay.
I don't know. Okay. I like it.
That
I do.
Like, as much as I shitted on Powerless last week, it was entertaining. It was fast paced most of the time. And, like, I mean, I knew stuff that was happening, but whatever. This book, I really wanted to enjoy it. And I think if I was a casual reader or someone who loved Divine Rivals and just, read it at whatever pace I had, could read a chapter, put it down, come back the next day, read another chapter, and wasn't like necessarily trying to like read a lot of books in the year or read for the podcast or whatever, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But this book was not paced to just consume. And when we just consumed it, I was like, this is fucking boring. Like, this is so beautiful, but she's boring.
That's how I feel about Divine Rivals, and I feel a little differently about this book. It felt like a love letter.
Yeah.
For someone, like, if my fiance, love that I can say that. If my fiance wrote me this book, this would be the best book in the world. Because the book feels like a love letter. If I was the main character, but I'm not the main character, and I'm like, I don't really give two shits about your love story. Like, I'm not in love with these characters. I don't love Roman. I've never really loved Roman's character. I like Iris. I like how headstrong she is. I like how mature she is. I love the meaning of this book, the love, dealing with grief, growing up in a society that's like not great, political strife. Like, it's all amazing, but it's a little lackluster.
Yeah.
It doesn't have those overarching fantasies, like waves that, we all yearn for in like a Fourth Wing or anything. But like, this also kind of reminds me of like a Jude, oh my God, the other one, your girl, Jude and Carden.
How does this remind you of Jude and Carden?
The banter that they have. Aubrey's like, no.
Like, don't touch my people with this.
The way that the story feels to me when I was reading it felt very like the book itself felt very like segmented, and that's how I feel that's how I felt when I was reading The Cruel Prince. But Holly Black adds a lot of cool action and like is more descriptive than Rebecca is, and I think that's why like Cruel Prince is like way above this. But the relationship between the two, if you read later into the Cruel Prince series, like that's kind of how I felt. It was like nothing can really break these two people apart, but like they were never together in the story ever.
Yes, that bugged me, and we can get more into that with the spoiler.
Yes, but with that being said, yeah, it's a writing style.
Yes, I think that if you loved Divine Rivals, you will love this book, or at least feel very strong about it. The writing style is consistent. Its tonal promises stay, the same throughout the book. This is a very like poetic, highbrow, stained glass window prose. And I think that's preventing you from like connecting as much with the stories, because I feel like half of this book is just the prose, kind of like Atlas 6 is. Whereas I think Holly Black has an amazing prose, but it's still an accessible story, and the
Super
prose
witty.
doesn't get in way of you connecting with the characters. And I think the prose in this story gets in the way.
I do think it gets in the way. But I will say it got more in my way in the first book. In this book, there was some wit. She got wit. And she got like I felt some humor in the writing. It wasn't so dry. And that I think that helped. So if you asked me, I would say Ruthless Vows. I would choose over Divine Rivals in a heartbeat. The way I consumed the last half of this book is insane. I have a lot of good and not bad, but just like things to say about it. But with that being said, I don't feel like I was crawling my way through the last half of this book. I texted Aubrey last night. I'm on page 180, and she's like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "I know. What the hell am I gonna do? We record tomorrow." I read it all, and if I didn't like the book, I would have been like, "Hey, we're gonna have to push schedule. Like, we're gonna have to push filming because." But I did. Like, I consumed the last half of this book, so I don't want to drag on any longer. I think we covered a little bit about like our general feelings. We're kind of like 50-50. Like it's good. Aubrey, did you like Divine Rivals better?
Oh yeah. I think I'm either tied or I like Divine Rivals more because Divine Rivals' concept was two journalists falling in love as they report at the front lines.
Fair.
Whereas this book feels like, it's two married people. So a married couple, separated. One has lost their memories, acting like spies during the war. Like I felt like we lost so much of like the journalistic bit. And then it got to a point where these characters are expected to uphold the traditional fantasy archetype of like saving the day. And I just didn't feel like these were the characters for it. Like I had so many different ways that I thought that this book was going to go and should have gone to stay true to the fact that they are journalists and that is their power. And it didn't do that. And so I didn't I don't know. I think I liked the theming of Divine Rivals more. Like two journalists falling in love, reporting on the war. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that does not necessarily stay true in this book. And like we said before, at its heart, to me, this is like a historical fiction romance. There are elements of gods and that obviously, and the typewriters being magic, like whatever, that can happen in a romance story. Just because there's elements of magic does not mean it's fantasy.
Like magical realism is where this book should be placed.
Correct. And so I think that if you are a heavy fantasy reader, I mean, you've already read Divine Rivals if you're here. So like, we're just like venting at this point. Star ratings. Star ratings. Where are we at?
Yes. Okay. I haven't actually done this on Goodreads yet because I like talking about it first because sometimes I change my mind as we talk. I think that I'm going to mark it on Goodreads as 4 stars, but it's 3.5. But I think I'm going to give it the 4 on Goodreads.
I don't even have to say it. That's verbatim what I was gonna say. This is a 4-star on Goodreads because I just
Yeah.
feel like I would give Divine Rivals, because of what I just said, I would give that a solid 3 just based off of. But yeah, this is a 3.5 for me. Like, it's a good book. Read it.
Yeah.
I recommend Divine Rivals to everybody. But I really think that this is Divine Rivals, and this duology is a place for people who are just lovers and love romance and romantic things,
Yeah.
and just the little things in life, and nothing too action packed, but just like just like a whirlwind romance with beautiful prose. Like, this could be your favorite book ever then. So 3.5. Like, I'm not gonna knock it just because it's not like my favorite type of book.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, this book is for the poets. This book is for the period piece girlies. This book is for the Delulu girlies. This book is for the people who see someone that's cute out in public and start fantasizing about your life together. Like, you have to be in that state of mind to enjoy this book. And then it's, yeah. I
If
could
you're
see
in
my
your
poetry
lover
business
era,
friends from school, like, top rating this book. It's not for, like, don't go into it thinking you're getting a fantasy book. But I think if you read
no.
the first one, you know that, which is why, like, I didn't rate it lower. I didn't rate it as a fantasy book because it's not a fantasy book. And so, because if I was trying to put it on scale to, like, fantasy books that I like From Blood and Ash, Cruel Prince, Sarah J.
Fourth
Maas
Wing.
books, yeah, Fourth Wing, Shadowhunters,
This would be
like,
a 2.
then it would be so fucking low.
Yeah.
But that's not what it's trying to do. And so rating it where it is, what it's trying to do, yeah, it's a solid 3.5, 4 stars.
Yep. So amen to that. This, like, definitely isn't a book I would give to my guy friends. This is a book I would give to my mom and be like, fall in love. I love love.
Love.
I love love. I feel like Drew Barrymore would love this book just because of the way, like, she just is wacko.
This would be the cutest, like, Valentine's Day gift, like this duology, like, from a guy.
Like, with a bow on it.
Yeah.
And, like, a little handwritten note. Oh,
that would be so cute.
guys, here, listen. I hope men are pushed this if I clip this for a reel. Listen, guys.
90% female viewership.
Guys,
lesbians out there, gift this to your girlfriend.
And don't just gift it. Bow it up and write a letter that says, like, dear name, like.
Go to your local library and see if they have a typewriter you can use.
If not, go on Canva or do, what is it? Do Times New Roman on a Word doc. Anyways, you're welcome, first of all. And happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
All right.
Let's get into our spoiler section.
Yes.
Because we're just fucking around here.
Yeah,
now.
We're just fucking around today, guys. Sorry.
All right. If you have not read this book and do not want it spoiled for you, now is your time to leave. Drop a like and a comment down below if you're going to read this book. If you have read this book and are staying for the spoiler section, also drop a like and a comment and subscribe and all that stuff. Because pretty please. Because Iris would want you to. Iris would, like, just really want you to.
Iris would want you to read this like it's her newspaper. So, anyways, I would love to go into this first bullet point. I didn't even think about this until I was writing down stuff for the script about how we are. It's like we're reliving this rivals, which they were never really rivals. Let's be honest. But anyways, rivals to lovers plot line resurrection. We have resurrected this trope. We are reliving it again. And to be honest, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It didn't last very long, and he was very gullible to it all very quickly.
Yeah. I actually want to issue an apology. Peyton, I am sorry that I made fun of you in Divine Rivals video for not liking this dual POV. You said it was wrong and it should have been just Iris's POV, and I fought you and I said, no, I liked Roman's POV. And then I read this book and I was like, hold on. Actually, Divine Rivals should have been just Iris's POV, like Rebecca Ross intended. She originally, for y'all who don't know, wrote the entire book just Iris's POV,
I
and
didn't
then
even
her
know that.
friend or editor was like, "Hey, you should put Roman's POV in," and then she went back and did that.
That was a bad idea.
Shouldn't have done that, because then, yes, we would have gotten more of the rivals to lovers in the first book, because Iris truly did see Roman as a rival, but every time you're in Roman's head, he's just in love with her. And then I think also in this book, one, I wish it would have been done up more about Roman like having lost his memories and like slowly remembering her. Like, it was there, but I think that because we had his POV in the previous book, a lot of his like character arc and characterization was actually just repeated in this book, like forgiving himself about his sister's death, things like that. Like you were saying that the first part was just a recap of the previous book.
Yeah, it's boring.
I think it would have been so much more exciting had we not had Roman's POV before, had it now, and kind of like then when he's slowly remembering things about Iris and like how quickly he was in love with her and how obsessed he was, then that would all feel so new and fresh, because we hadn't seen them fall in love through his eyes before. Because then I also think it would have done up more the thing of Iris messaging as E and her middle name. Like, that callback was cute, but I like everything else felt repetitive.
Yes, and that's why I said I like consumed the last half of this book, and that's why it took me it took me one night to read the second half, which was all new material, and it took me 1 week to read the first half.
Yeah.
Like, make that make sense. So yeah, 100%, I accept your apology, and I will accept everyone else's apology on the internet, because it's true. If you're going to be if you're going to do a duology, especially one where they end up separated for the whole dang book, which we will get into, I feel like it would have given us, one, the tension that we need and deserve, especially if you're trying to do some fantasy elements. Second thing, also in romance too, we love a good tension. Second thing, is that it was just so redundant, and I just think that you're gonna lose people. You are going to lose people in the beginning of that book, and then there's nothing more fun than like falling in love with these two characters, and like we fall in love, if she would have done it the right way, as she should have, and she should just republish the book the right way. If we fell in love with Roman through Iris's eyes, and I've done this with characters before. Trust me, it's a magical thing. Because you never want to be inside a dude's head. I promise you. It's the worst thing ever. So, we fall in love with Roman through Iris's point of view. So we already love the dude. He can do no wrong. He gets taken from her. Taken from her. Gets sucked down below by basically the devil. Okay?
Yeah.
And then in the next book, we get his point of view, and we know about his sister. We know about him always loving her because, like, he blah, blah, blah. But we see that, like, genuine thought that we've never seen before. There's nothing more heartwarming, cozy than being like, oh my God, we're about to get the inside scoop from his side. Like, are you kidding me? This is so cute. This would have been a 5 out of 5 for me. I promise you. I'm so happy that you said it that way, and I did not know that fact. So that's crazy. There's a right and a wrong way to do dual POV, and
well, and I think the fact that she originally was only gonna have Iris's POV, like, I think maybe trust your instincts there.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't necessary, because it threw off the twist. It threw I mean,
also,
like,
it's called Divine Rivals, and we never really had that real enemies to lovers. And that's why rivals I have in quotations. Like, yeah, they were rivals, but this man was already obsessed with her the minute she walked in. And so I never really got that, like, I'm gonna, like, I want you to die sort of mentality that we get in other fantasy novels.
Rivals is a step down from enemies, because they're like competing for something, but it's not gonna give you the same like
Actual,
kill
like, you
you and
killed
your
my dad.
family.
Yeah.
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 But still, yeah,
It
I
wasn't
think
the
I
same.
think even the competition between them was heavily one-sided.
It was so lackluster.
Rowan
Lackluster.
also had no stake. Like being in his head, you know he wants to be an author and he's only doing this because he's a rich boy and daddy told him to.
Yeah.
And so like he was like if he didn't get the columnist position, he was like, "Oh, I'll piss off dad." Whereas like Iris is like, I need this, I want this, this is how I am fulfilled in life after my brother has gone missing, after whatever. That's book one shit.
It is.
I think that the pacing of this book is a little horrendous. I have two things. One, generally when I am reading fantasy books, the last book is typically my least favorite or not in my tops because fantasy books are always going to end in the war. And I don't like battle scenes. I don't like the full like out wars. I don't care about that shit. I like the more like character building, characterization, and magic
Yeah.
shit. So I already was like, okay, a lot of these I'm not gonna like as much. But then I was like, this book is more historical romance than fantasy. These are journalists. It's not gonna be like as war heavy. And then it was. And then it was so fucking war heavy. And it was like they were just spies. And I felt like
Yeah.
things kept getting repeated. And I kept getting confused as to why we are here and doing these things. I was just like, oh.
Like, honestly, I really think that even if Rebecca would have put a line in, like, maybe Keegan says to Iris when she's, like, showing her the things that Roman was typing her. Keegan could have said something like, "Wow, Iris, I always knew you were a journalist, but never knew you were a spy." Or, like, something to be like, hey, like, they're not really journalists anymore. They're more, like, journalists turned spies that are going to, like, I just feel like maybe we could have changed that shift. And maybe the newspaper turned in from newspaper to, like, a different organization than just, like, we need to get these on the press. Do you have your article written tonight, Iris? It's like, I don't remember any really articles she written except the, like, one that the dude was like, this isn't right. So yeah, the
like,
pacing.
I don't know.
Yeah, the pacing was great at the end because it was the end. But I will say this pacing, obviously, it took me a week to read like the first half, so I was like, oh, dragged
even the
on.
end was, which I wanted a completely different ending. The ending, which felt faster paced and that you could read quicker, I still think like, I mean, we'll get into more detail about it, but like we killed the god, and then still had like 40 pages left or something ridiculous like that. Like
that shit
was
pissed me
still
off
so much, and I was like, why am I supposed to care about the graveyard? This like organization
I don't even understand those people.
You brought up like last minute that we're not entirely sure like if they're good or bad or like what's going on with them.
Shit
It
pissed me off. She should have freaking kept. She should have never ever created the graveyard.
They didn't need to exist.
That it was
what
so
did they bring to the story?
It confused me. And also how Iris loved the sword, loved the dream walking. Enva did. I love that. I think that was cool because I was starting to get really pissed off at that bitch. I was like, where the hell is she? I was like, does she even exist? It made sense. Then, like, I loved, like, the museum scene was just, like, oh, so freaking cool. But please tell me why this man was killed in one chapter. Like, this man's death was, I felt, like a sentence. The villain of the book just died. It just died.
By a journalist. And
she was just like, ugh. And Addie's over there, like, playing the violin. And it's
Yeah.
just like, I do like the idea that we are in that scene. The one thing I will say, I hate that scene. I don't like that scene at all. I just don't think it was written well. What I do like is that the whole scene is an inner monologue because Iris could not hear anything. So we are fully in her head the whole time. And I think there is something so dope about that. Like when Addie looks at her and she's like, wait, like, or like she's like, Addie's kind of like telling her like what's up. I think that's like so dope. But that whole scene was confusing, disorienting. I just feel like it was done wrong. I liked the ending of this book. I did not like that. The fact that they were able just to walk in. I know they had a key, but like they walked in.
Yeah.
Like,
it was, and like, why the hell wasn't Roman there? Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, the beginning of the book, Roman doesn't have his memories. Makes total sense that they're separated. Okay. Iris runs into him the first time at the house. If he remembers everything instantly, why didn't he run away with her? Why didn't he grab his typewriter and sneak out the window with her? Okay, they knew she was there the second, like, right away. Okay, sure. He wants to stay, gets information. We need him to reveal the things, whatever. The next time he goes home, why does he not try to run away? Why is he still fucking with Darce this entire time? And then he's still separate for the final battle. They're together three times in this whole damn book.
They're never together in this book.
Makes
and
no
it
sense.
pisses me off. And yeah, he's just like sleeping away in the cell down there. And I understand like Shane gets his redemption arc or whatever, but I'm like, are you kidding me? Like this book, this is why, once again with your argument, this could have just been told from Iris's POV. Because like she is the main character.
Yeah.
And a dual POV, I felt like
needed Roman's POV in this one.
Correct. I do. I agree with you. Because they're separated too much.
Yeah.
Rebecca created such a hard work because she was telling two stories at once with this. And I said before, and I'll stand by this, I think that this dual POV was more accessible. I was able to eat it up a little easier because I felt like it was more fluid. And I feel like, although we were repeating a lot of the past, I felt like when dual POV, I don't like when something happens in one in a POV and we switch to the next one and they repeat the same thing just from their perspective. I like that it was more so like one line reflecting on his POV from her POV, like what happened in that situation, but it wasn't like, okay, we get it. I don't really care what you think. Like, let's just move the story along. So yeah. Crazy. Once again, the ending here. There was good and bad. Aubrey, it seems like you absolutely hated it. There were some things I liked.
Okay.
I liked the feeling of like when I find out Envo was in the cafe, like watching them and like that kind of stuff. Like the like little like, oh, that happened, like the little sprinkle. That's what I like. Let us know.
I liked two things. I liked Enva in the cafe. And I liked the part of the chapter where we focused on the couples throughout and what they were doing during the bombing. And like it ending with like Forrest and Sarah not making it and dying. Like that was so sad, but it was like so perfect. And they were like kind of the characters you wanted to die. Like if someone has to die to make it realistic,
they had to die.
And he died like sheltering her body. Like I think that was really cute. I wish though then that Roman had gone in and talked to Forrest that in the earlier in the book, just so that way they would have met.
Had that and had that actual interaction, because Roman had that salty thing, but like Forrest didn't give two shits about Roman then. Like he didn't even know. Roman
he didn't know who he was.
I'm like, Roman has like a little like immature point of view on that, and I was like, relax, I highlighted this, and that's why I love reading on the Kindles, because on Goodreads it never shows up. You can have
Ooh.
the thing, and even then, Forrest never let go of her hand.
Oh.
The fact
So
that
sad.
Forrest, who was so broken, was able to like
Mm-hmm.
have Sarah Prindle, as like that person, and the fact that
Yeah.
we see Iris choose Roman again and again and again over her over Forrest. She goes to the front lines. She puts herself in danger, and it was so romantic to see Forrest experience that. And
Yeah.
he died for someone he loves, and the fact that they talked about him sheltering her body, like, that was, yeah. I agree with you.
That was
Those
good.
two
That was
parts
good.
in my head too. At the ending, those
Yeah.
two parts are my most favorite. And I texted Aubrey, and is his name Tobias?
Yeah.
I was like, can Tobias and Addie just fuck already?
That was when she was on page 180. Which I think there is confirmation that they were fucking, because he was like at her house.
Yeah,
Fucking
they're
at
like,
her parents' house.
yeah, he's here all the time. And then the younger sisters or whatever are like, yeah, he's here all the time. He drives us to school. And so, I liked when he's like, I used to have a car like this when I was younger. Like seeing the innocence through like those kids' eyes during bombings, like that's what like makes us feel very like World War II. Like,
yes,
in a lot of like World War II movies, you see a different perspective of different families. I like the end of the world. Like, what are you doing? Don't Look Up is a great movie on Netflix with Leo DiCaprio. Like, they're all sitting at a table, and then like they all die when a bomb goes off because it's the end of the world. Like, or I get there's like a meteor that crashes into the world. So, anyways, that kind of shit is like what like is the tear jerking, heartbreaking parts.
Absolutely.
How it unfolded and this rebellion shit that got added in at the end. I was like, you can't just add that in. Sorry.
No. Okay, here's how it should have ended.
Oh,
all right.
okay.
Are you ready? Okay. First, we're gonna things are gonna start being changed when Iris goes to the museum for the second time. Have everything be the same. Maybe even still give her the sword. Or instead we could give like a magic instrument, because like I get that like Darcy has to die or whatever. But I still don't love that like this like random fucking journalist has to like kill him. Like, I mean, at least the sword, it makes sense to be able to kill a god. Like, it lets it like you don't have to be strong, but whatever. Okay. Up to that moment, everything can stay the same-ish. What should have happened is, for one, instead of like printing safe addresses in the Gazette, or that could happen as well, instead they should have printed the lyrics to the lullaby. Then had the graveyard team up with the paper to make sure that everyone got a page of this fucking lullaby. Then given Addie a magic violin, and right before the bombs start going off, everyone fills the streets and starts singing this lullaby. Okay? Because we know that, like, especially since it's a World War II, like, kind of parallel. Do you know, like, those videos? I don't know if it's one or two, but where, like, these people are, like, singing in the trenches on Christmas Day, and it
It's
causes,
World War
like, the
One.
ceasefire.
Yeah.
Like, we could have done a callback to that. Also, it could have been Christmas. We could have thrown that in, like, make it a special holiday, like, make it something cute like that, like, add to the whimsy. But I think that we should have had the big moment be the way that Iris and Addie save the day is Iris comes up with putting the lyrics in this paper, sending it out to everyone, and then Addie plays on like a magic violin, and that forces like the elethrals, the dragons, to like drop and sleep so none of the bombs can be dropped. And then like Darcy comes out and like he falls asleep, and then if someone has to kill him, sure. I also think that if you didn't do that, or if you did that but then like all the people had to be singing, and then Addie and Iris still had to go like to like the deep underground to get to him. Roman should have been there. There's no reason he wasn't in that scene. Also, if you're falling asleep due to this lullaby, you should instantly fall asleep. Like, you shouldn't be able to just be tousled awake. Like, I shouldn't be able to grab your shoulder and easily wake you up like that, like Shane did to him. But I think Roman should have been there, but because he wasn't supposed to be there, they only had like enough earwax for one person. And so what happens is they each like cover one of their ears and then just like focus in on each other, and like their ability to like focus in on one another and like truly just be in the moment and in love like prevents them from like hearing the music and falling asleep and give a little power of love. We also should have done up the Enva and Darcy romance. Like, they kept calling each other husband and wife, and like obviously like Enva's whole thing is that like I can't kill him because he's my husband, and then Darcy gets distracted by seeing his wife. Like, make them more like tragic
Love
romance.
stories. Yeah.
Make that more of a tragic love story that is then like overthrown by how amazing Iris and Roman's love is. Like,
Correct.
why did we have to go in with a sword? Why did Roman not have to be there?
Also, I think Roman should have been the one to kill him because he was his captor. And in a lot of books, oh my god, easiest one ever. Harry Potter. Harry Potter is collecting those Horcruxes. Like, he's collecting this one, he's collecting this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why couldn't that have been an element in this book? Collect a magical violin. Like, Enva's helping them by leading them together. After the explosion, Roman and I almost called her Violet. Iris go to the museum together.
Yeah.
And that is when they go, oh my gosh, we've been dreaming of the same person. This is Enva. Enva gives like Roman the sword and gives Iris the magical violin. And then they can separate again. And then they meet together, and then that's when that shit, like, goes down.
Yeah.
Like, the sword's cool, like, I get it. I just think that, like, Iris never really had that relationship with the dude. So it's like, but Roman did, and, like, he hurt Roman. And, like, I just feel like Roman should have been the one to kill him.
Yeah, it would have been way more impactful.
Yeah.
I think she went for like the classic fantasy end, which didn't fit a book that is whimsy romance.
Correct.
Like, we should have saved the day with the power of love. I'm sorry. This is the book where you save the day with the fucking power of love.
Yes, like love. Because he actually, like, obviously doesn't really love Enva.
Yeah.
And so, this is how, like, love is stronger than any god power you have. Or any, like, thing you could do. They literally send each other fucking letters through a wardrobe. Love letters.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And a sword's gonna be the thing that ends the day. Like, that's the thing. Like, I love the idea of music, and I agree with you about, like, print. Like, that was gonna be Iris's part, is printing out. Going right back to the whole place where this started is the newspaper. And then that's how they could have roped in the rebellion. What have you.
And, like, her writing was so good. That's how she convinced people to not take shelter, but to instead stand on the streets and sing. Because she's, like, that strong of a writer. Like, I think that is a journalist heroic moment.
Is their words. Literally a quote, 97.
Like, the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, words are mightier, and that could literally be a quote. It's like, because love and words can beat any sword or like any power.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So there's this quote. It's a callback, and it says, "Keep writing. You will find the words you need to share. They are already within you, even in the shadows, hiding like jewels."
Yes.
That was in the book. Bring that shit back and like put it in context of like what we just talked about. We just rewrote this whole book. I don't hate this book, by the way. It just...
No.
I know what makes me cry, and I really feel like that would have made me cry. I think that there were so many genres shoved into a duology, duologies are
Yeah.
really hard to write.
Mhm.
Because they're very much, she could have split this up and made it into 3 books if she really wanted to. So
Yeah.
the ending, while I consumed it like a good, home cooked meal, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I have to agree with you on that. I
Mhm.
there during I was reading scenes and I was like, oh, this isn't hitting. This could be so much better.
Well, and then she kills the god. And the books and the story's not like we're not out of the conflict.
Yeah.
And then like the whole thing with her having to like stop the graveyard people from like committing war crimes and just killing all these people without trial. Like, why did we add this extra villain in? What service did they provide to the story? Because even like their attempted bomb didn't work. Like, I guess to just push Darce further, but I think he would have made that proclamation the second he reached the city without like, I don't know. I just think the graveyard didn't need to exist, and if they do exist, they should not be the final conflict.
Like, no.
Like,
Yeah, that was crap.
they were the last battle.
I was literally reading that and I was like, and
Yeah.
who are you?
And why? Yeah, and it didn't make any fucking sense. I
And
also
Aubrey and I did not talk about this beforehand. Like, we both have
no.
this raw reaction. And so I'm
Yeah.
dying to know if anyone else felt the same freaking way. That, like, these people showed up and you're like, oh, is that the people Shane is working with? Like, it was confusing.
Yeah.
And I'll let you get to what you're saying, but also, like, there was, like, 5 different epilogues. And I was like, what's happening? Anyways.
I just want to bring up while we're talking about the graveyard,
Oh, yeah.
them having like this control of the city and kind of going like the idea of another force saying just no gods at all, like we're anti-Enva, like kind of that it was something that I was like, okay, I get that's place of wanting someone who's just like a straight non-believer, like get the divines out of our life. And then in the final battle, Iris has this thought where she's like, all of the gods are selfish. And yet we end on Enva still kind of being like she gets to live. She's just going to go out west and like sing the soldiers to the afterlife. And like, I don't know, like I felt like if we're pushing such a hard, like all gods are bad like party, and to the point where even our main character, like Iris repeatedly thinks like, the graveyard might be onto something with this like no gods stance. And then like nothing happened with that. Like I just don't know what their purpose was.
And it's hard to have any other than Enva being an absolute doll and like kind of caring for her and leading her in the right direction. We don't know anything about her. She's not in the story at all. And she feels more of a mystery. It was weird. I don't think her character was fully developed, and maybe that's on purpose, and like that's fair. But I just felt like such a disconnect because then all of a sudden, in one of the epilogue chapters, we're like in the point of view of her, like we're in her head basically.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what? Who are you?
The book starts in her head. The first epilogue is her, and then the last one is her as well.
Yeah. I mean, and it makes sense that she's in the prologue, but it's just like,
yeah.
You're like,
I don't know. I have one final thing, and it's really small, but they say that there's a new chancellor, and they say that it's a she.
Who?
And we're not told who it is, which makes it more likely that it's just some random bitch. But in my head, it's Keegan, and there's just a deleted chapter somewhere out there where they talked, because we didn't hear about Marisol or Keegan again.
Yeah,
like besides them like crying as the bombs and like watching the bombs hit, like we didn't hear from them again, which I thought was kind of odd. Like I thought that like in one of those 6 months, 1 year shit later, we would have seen them and we didn't.
Yeah.
So in my head, Keegan became the chancellor because she was like high up in the military and whatever. It's whimsical romance. Why not? It's a she.
Yeah. I was like, who's the she? Who's the what? Why did
Yeah.
we have to even talk about a new chancellor? Like, why not do that in the epilogue? Roman and I always want to call her Kit too. Oh my god. Roman and Iris are living together, and she gets a letter from Keegan or Marisol inviting them down to like where they're living in Oath
Yeah.
now, because like that is how you wrap that shit in a bow.
Yeah.
There are plot holes. They're not plot holes. It's more
Mhm.
just so like little holes that like if you're an actual reader, you're like, I don't know. I just don't see how anyone's actually reading these books and is like, oh my gosh, like nothing is wrong.
Yeah.
And I feel bad. I feel like a piece of crap saying that. She comes out with another book, I'd still read it. But I don't know, guys.
I'm
so curious to see what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
Like, it's just our opinions. Like I said, this one is fully raw and real. Aubrey, I finished this last night. I didn't even tell Aubrey. So, like, we have never talked about this book at all. The only thing I ever said to her was, I really hope to buy a Snatty Fuck soon because this tension is killing me. That is all I said to her. So I am dying to know what everyone thought of this book. Guys, that is all we have for today. I hope that this wasn't too negative. And I literally was like, this isn't going to be a negative episode. It's just, that's the best part about reading book podcasts is we can kind of think about alternative endings and maybe how we would have liked to see it. Not that like you feel that way, but I agree with everything for the most part that Aubrey said. And
yeah, I think overall, like the book was a good book. Like
I enjoyed
started
it
with that, and end it with it. It was a good book. Its tone, like if that's what you were going in for, those vibes delivered. There were just things that I felt like it could have been a better book.
We could be sitting here being like 5 stars. Oh my god.
Yeah.
And so that,
and I'm sure someone's review is. So
yes, go find them if you feel that way. We don't. It was a good book. I do recommend. You've already read it. Recommend this to your friends. I'm like, you already read the book. I would recommend it to someone who hasn't read the book.
Yeah.
As always, guys, we love you. Let us know about any books you want us to review. Crescent City, once again, I'll mention this. We have so much content coming up for Crescent City. I was really excited to read Ruthless Vows. But that is all we have time for. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us we're wrong. We love those comments.
Oh, all right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy reading.